The seventh bell struck while Riven was still on the third step. Pain flared through his palm. The buried key shuddered beneath his skin, and the hound's gate-shaped mark pulsed in answer. It pressed against his leg so hard he nearly stumbled. "They can feel you," whispered the stolen voice. Riven hated how perfectly it carried the warmth of someone he could no longer remember. "Then help me become someone else." False echo available. Define believable intent. Boots scraped somewhere above. More than 2 people, moving without lanterns and without hesitation. Enforcers who knew the buried passages. Riven climbed faster. The stair was too narrow to fight in, and every landing would trap him between stone and steel. He needed them to believe he had chosen the obvious escape, upward, toward the old cistern tunnels. He pictured himself panicked, injured, desperate for open streets. It was easy. Until minutes ago, every part of it had been true. "I'm fleeing to South Cistern," he breathed. False echo formed. Cost, true trace created. Something peeled away from him. It made no sound, yet Riven felt it rush up the stair wearing the rhythm of his breath, the drag of his wounded foot, even the hot animal fear tightening his throat. The approaching boots stopped. "Movement above," a man said. "Key resonance?" "Faint." "Climbing." The search party turned and pursued the lie. For one relieved heartbeat, Riven thought he had one. Then the black tooth in his palm burned, and somewhere below, metal scraped stone. A true trace. Not where he was going, he realized. Where he had been. The hound whined and looked down the stair. Its trembling worsened, but it did not retreat. The mark across its muzzle opened like an ink-drawn mouth. "It has your scent now," the key's voice murmured. "What does?" The answer came as a dull impact from beneath them. Dust jumped from the steps. The Guardian had promised concealment from the Warden's sight, not from its hands, servants, or whatever shadow it could push into the earth. Riven reached a split in the passage. Left climbed toward a rusted grate leaking rainwater. Right descended through a maintenance arch barely tall enough for the hound. Faded arrows marked the left route as an evacuation path. The right bore no mark at all. The hound lunged right, then stopped when Riven did. It looked back at him, one brass ear twitching toward the receding enforcers. "The key says they opened 6 gates," Riven whispered. "You've walked these tunnels longer than I have." The creature lowered its head. A shiver ran through its clockwork ribs. Then it placed one paw across the unmarked threshold. Riven followed. The maintenance arch narrowed around them. Behind, the false echo continued upward, convincing enough to draw shouted orders and the clatter of drawn weapons. Ahead, the hound moved with its muzzle almost touching the floor, choosing turns before Riven could see them. At the third junction, it froze. A thin black shadow lay across the passage, although there was nothing to cast it. It stretched from wall to wall, breathing in time with the bells. The hound backed into Riven, trembling violently. Bound witness condition detected. Share burden? Yes/no. He did not know what burden meant. The safe choice was no. The clever choice was to preserve the only guide capable of sensing what hunted them. Riven pressed his marked palm to the hound's gate scar. Yes. Cold flooded his arm, and the shadow ahead lifted its head. The cold did not stop at Riven's elbow. It climbed into his shoulder, threaded beneath his ribs, and opened a second awareness inside his skull. Stone rushed beneath 4 paws. Damp iron stung a nose that was not his. He smelled old blood in the mortar, lamp oil on the distant searchers, and something ahead that possessed no scent at all. The hound's fear struck him as an instinct to flee, raw enough to bend his knees. "Steady," Riven whispered, unsure which of them he meant. The shadow detached from the wall. Jointed limbs unfolded around a narrow torso of blackened metal, each movement timed to the fading vibration of the 7th bell. Where a face should have been, a brass disc turned toward them. A needle clicked across its surface. "Maintenance construct," the stolen voice breathed from beneath Riven's skin. "First hand of the Warden. It follows the bell's answer, not the bell." Riven understood when the construct tilted its head. The key in his palm had answered the pulse. So had the gate mark. Another chill tore energy from his muscles. The shared senses were not free. His own vision dimmed whenever he leaned too heavily into the hound's nose, and the animal's trembling worsened whenever his pain crossed back through the bond. Shared burden, active. Transfer limit, unstable. The construct stepped forward. Behind Riven, boots splashed into the upper passage. Third stair, someone called. The reading came from below. Riven gripped the wall. He could outrun neither threat while carrying the cold, but he did not need to. He needed both hunters to trust the same lie. Can you make them hear me elsewhere? He asked. False echo available. Cost requires authentic impression. His thoughts flashed toward his name, his voice, the shape of his footsteps. Then the system reached deeper and offered something smaller, a memory of summer rain striking the roof of his childhood home, warm bread in his hands, someone laughing beyond a doorway. He recoiled. The face attached to the laughter was already blurred. The construct advanced again. The brass needle fixed on him. Riven accepted. The memory vanished without pain. That was worse. He knew something precious had occupied that space, yet when he searched for it, he found only an empty warmth. False echo forged. From the main tunnel below came the slap of Riven's boots, the hound's claws, and a breathless curse in his exact voice. The construct snapped toward it. Its limbs folded close, and it darted after the phantom trail with terrifying speed. The searchers reached the stair. There, one shouted. Moving east. They followed. Riven sagged, suddenly unable to feel two fingers on his marked hand. Under his palm, the hound's scar had spread into thin black lines across its shoulder. It turned its muzzle toward him, then pressed its forehead against his chest, not from fear this time, but choice. A pulse passed between them. The numb fingers twitched. Bound witness synchronization increased. Hidden level progress, 8 out of 10. The Warden counts what returns, the key warned. Your echo will not return. A faint chime sounded in the passage where the construct had disappeared. Then another answered from much closer. Riven looked toward a narrow side shaft descending beneath a rusted grate. Through the hound's senses, he caught warm air, living breath, and the coppery scent of a small wounded thing waiting below. He lifted the grate. We test the bond before the Warden tests it for us. The hound descended first, no longer trembling, while behind them the bells began counting backward. The shaft narrowed until Riven had to crawl, one hand gripping the seventh key while the other followed the hound's scarred flank. Every time the mark in his palm pulsed, the darkness split into two versions, the blind stone before his own eyes and a sharp world of scent carry through the animal. 3 armored bodies entered the tunnel behind them. Riven tasted their iron buckles through the hound's nose. He felt their boots as tremors in its whiskers and nearly collapsed when the borrowed senses pulled harder. Bound sight drain, for vitality per breath. He severed the vision. Too late. His elbow slipped, knocking grit through the grate below. Movement, someone barked. The hound twisted back. Its teeth caught Riven's sleeve before he could slide onto the rusted bars. Beneath them, something small and pale unfolded 6-jointed legs around a mouth lined with black needles. The wounded scent had been bait. Riven drove the 7th key between the bars. The creature lunged, impaling its mouth on the key's teeth. A whisper entered his bones. Every gate remembers the hand that closed it. Heat raced along the key. The bars snapped inward as if obeying an ancient lock, crushing the creature between them. Its body released a thin, piercing shriek. The patrol started running. Riven wrenched the key free. Can you move? The hound answered by shoving its shoulder under his ribs. Not obedience. A demand. He climbed upright and pressed his marked palm to its scar. Shared sight flooded him again. Through the hound, he found a fork concealed beyond a curtain of hanging roots. Through himself, he saw only a dead end. False echo available. A translucent copy of Riven flickered beside him, weak-looking, limping, its visible level hovering exactly where the world expected it. he sent it down the open tunnel. The first enforcer rounded the bend and saw the false Riven scramble away. There! Lowest rank prisoner. Take him alive. All three pursued. The echo stumbled convincingly, leaving bloody handprints Riven had never made. The hidden fork admitted Riven and the hound sideways. He held his breath while steel boots thundered past. Then the last enforcer stopped. A gauntlet hand reached through the roots. The hound sprang before Riven could. Its jaws closed around the wrist, but the enforcer dragged it halfway out. Riven caught the animal's scar, sharing the bolt of pain that ripped through its shoulder. His knees struck stone. He could release the burden and save himself. Instead, he pulled harder. The mark burned white. Strength hidden from every visible measure surged through his back and arms. He tore the hound free, then drove the key into a round notch beside the fork. The wall closed on the enforcer's wrist. Riven heard the man's scream diminish behind solid rock. A smear of blood remained on the roots. His blood, from the hound's teeth piercing his sleeve during the struggle. Evidence an anomaly hunter could follow. The key whispered, "The Warden does not guard the gates. The gates guard the world from what the Warden became." Riven scraped his blood from the roots, but destroying it required heat. He pressed his palm against the smear and let the mark consume it. Paid, one bound memory. The hound's first moment of trust vanished from him. He remembered saving it, yet could no longer remember when it had stopped fearing his touch. The loss hurt worse than the wound. They entered a round chamber lined with 7 empty keyholes. The hound leaned against his leg, choosing him again without knowing it had done so before. Hidden Veil upgrade unlocked, Warden's blind spot. Warning, 7th key integration 12%. Riven stared at the dark veins spreading from his palm. The backward counting bells stopped. In the silence, the hound looked at him through eyes that had begun to shine with the same buried light. Then something enormous breathed on the other side of the chamber door, and the key whispered, "It can no longer mistake you for human." The breath drew inward again, pulling dust through the seams of the door. 7 keyholes moaned like mouths trying not to speak. Riven backed away. The hound did not. Its claws scratched furrows into the floor as it leaned toward the sound, silver light flooding the scars beneath its fur. "Is it calling you?" The hound's ears flattened. "Not calling," the key whispered. "Remembering." A hinge groaned beyond the wall. There were no hinges on their side. Riven examined the 7 keyholes. 6 were filmed with ancient dust. The lowest held a fresh crescent of blood. Someone had turned a key there recently. The Warden. Or the thing it had become. Behind them, stone grated. The trapped enforcer had found another route, or his companions had. Riven heard muffled orders, then the clean metallic chime of anomaly glass. His blood was gone, but pain left traces too, and the chamber reeked of it. He had 2 choices: flee through the fork and gamble against hunters who knew his face, or open the door and face something that no longer counted him among humankind. The hound glanced back at him. Trust without memory. A gift he had already lost once. Riven knelt and pressed his forehead to its scarred brow. The buried light passed between them, warm and terrible. For an instant he saw a chain descending through miles of black water, each link engraved with a name. His own name burned on the newest link. Warning, 7th key integration 19%. He jerked away, tasting iron. The pounding behind them intensified. A voice called, "Riven Veil, surrender the key and the beast. Your contamination may still be reversible." The key laughed softly inside his bones. Riven chose. He drove it into the blood-marked keyhole. Nothing happened. Then he turned it left. The other 6 keyholes filled with darkness, not shadow but depth, and the chamber door split down its center. Cold wind rushed out carrying salt, grave mold, and the distant roar of an unseen sea. Beyond lay a bridge of vertebrae suspended over a drowned city. Towers gleamed far below, their windows opening one by one like waking eyes. The enormous shape waited at the bridge's end, shackled to a throne too small for it. Riven stepped across the threshold with the hound beside him. He pulled the key free, and the door began to close. An anomaly hunter lunged through the narrowing gap. Riven saw the white mask, the raised blade, and the familiar blue eyes behind it. "Brother," he breathed. The hunter froze. Across the abyss, the shackled giant lifted its head. Every window in the drowned city spoke with Riven's voice. "Only one of you is mine."